Yo, what's up? Pascal here. Nice to see you again on my channel. You probably know me from my GoPro Hero 7 videos, but I got something new here, the DJI OSMO Pocket, a really awesome tool. So let's talk about how you can use it to create cinematic videos. I'm still on Bali, as you can probably see, with some nice rice field view here and the Monte Gung volcano in the background, which is definitely a nice place to get shots with the DJI OSMO Pocket. And that's what I actually want to ask you before we start with the main topic today, is what do you use the DJI OSMO Pocket for? Because, well, it's kind of a new type of camera, right? It's not an action cam, but it's also not a normal gimbal, it's not a mirrorless. You get something in between, it has something of everything. And that's why I really want to know what you use the DJI Pocket more for, so that I can adjust my content more on that, so that I can help you better to get better shots with it. So please leave it in the comments below while you're watching this video, and let's get started talking about how to actually use the DJI OSMO Pocket to get cinematic videos. And I want to mention that here directly. Don't want to talk about those general tips that everyone gives, like use ND filters, get natural motion blur, use a CPL filter or whatever, because there are already many videos about that out. And of course they are all true, it makes it more cinematic, but that counts for every camera. It's not just for the DJI OSMO Pocket or also some gimbal stuff. So I really want to tell you in this video how to use this specific little thing to get some awesome cinematic footage out of that. But of course there are two settings that I want to mention here that are a bit more specific for the OSMO Pocket. And the first thing is really that you should shoot in a higher frame rate. So when you're in 4K 60 FPS, when you're in a lower resolution than 120 FPS. And that is simply because then when you publish your video later in 24 FPS or 25 or 30, up to you, then you can slow it down, and that makes it a bit more cinematic and also more smoother. So you have a nice slight slow motion shot. And the other setting is that you should definitely shoot in a flat color profile, that is the Cine-like for the DJI OSMO Pocket, and that flattens out your image a little bit, so you get a bit more dynamic range and you can do more color grading in post-production. Of course, if you don't want to do any color grading and so on later, if you're a bit lazy with that, then you should probably shoot a normal color profile, because that would look better then, but it's not the same as shooting in Cine-like. You definitely get a better quality with it. So these were the two most important or more unique settings for the DJI OSMO Pocket, but how do you use it after you set everything up? And there's one common mistake that I saw all over the past few years that people made when they use their gimbals, like smartphone gimbals, normal gimbals, and I also saw it already with the DJI OSMO Pocket, and that is that people walk around all the time just, oh yeah, I'm filming here, I'm filming here, I'm filming here. They leave it running all the time and they don't actually have a point of their video. And you need to change that when you want to make your video cinematic. So what you want to change is that instead of like pointing it everywhere, shooting all of the time, having videos that are 1 or 2 minutes long, you want to think in terms of shots instead of shooting long term. So you want to have a specific point of every shot, a specific subject that you want to film, and that probably adds to the story of your video. And then you want to make a shot of usually somewhere between 3 and 15 seconds. And out of these shots, you cut them together later to your final video. So that's a very important thing here. If you don't apply that, then your videos will never look cinematic. This is just simple. You have to think in shots. But apart from that, there is a lot more to it. So you need to understand what the DJI OSMO Pocket is. It is a gimbal and nothing else. Even if it looks very small and it looks like something new, it is just a gimbal with a camera that is already included, and you have to treat it like that. So as a gimbal, the OSMO Pocket is meant to give you smooth footage, and the problem with gimbals is always that they are not stabilized in the horizontal axis. So when you use it, you want to make sure that in the horizontal axis it's as stable as possible. And my best tip here is to, instead of use it like that, you can actually turn it on. Instead of using it like that, you want to use it a bit more like that. Of course, it's right in front of my face. You want to hold it a bit lower. But this is simply because when you hold it like that, it becomes a lot more easy to have it stable in the horizontal axis. If I would hold it like that and I would walk, then it's like my arms are limited here. So when I have up and downward movement that is coming from my legs, then I automatically go up and down with the gimbal. So I have this bumpiness in the shots, and that doesn't look cinematic. So you want to hold it more like that, because then your arms have a bit more room to play, and they can automatically reduce the amount of movement in the horizontal axis. So your shots will definitely be more stable. So that's really important here from the beginning. And of course, when you're doing that, when you're holding it like that, then you also want to make sure that the tilt axis is locked. So you definitely go into tilt lock mode by swiping from the bottom up, yeah. And then, as you can see here right now, when I turn it, then it stays all the time at the same horizontal position. You can change the horizontal position by simply clicking on the right part of the screen and then dragging it up or down. So as you can see here right now it changed the position. Let's do it up, and then it keeps it like that. That's important so that you can pre-frame your shot, and then you focus on the side movement or on the forward movement or whatever you want, but you have that already fixed. Motorbikes, it was so quiet here, like 20 minutes before, less. Now all the motorbikes are coming. No problem. So after you set it to tilt lock mode and you hold it like that, then of course it's a question how to move it. You can either move forward, you can move to the sides, and I would say let's start with the forward movement. So when you move forward, you want to make sure that your steps are small and they are stable, so that you don't move your legs up too much, so that it's even easier for you to get stable footage in the horizontal axis. I put in some videos here that you can see how I walk with the DJI OSMO Pocket, and then you can make sure that even when you walk over a longer distance forward, that your footage is buttery smooth and it looks pretty cinematic. But it's a bit more complicated, I would say, when you have side movement, simply because when you move to the sides and you only use your arms, then it's very likely that you get some shake in there. That's especially true if you move very slow. So my tips for that, to get buttery smooth footage there, is to at first don't move too slow. So when I move very slow like that, then it's automatically that I get more shake. So when I move it a little bit faster, then I can slow it down later in post, because remember, we're shooting in a higher frame rate, and then it's around the same speed, but it's smoother automatically, because when you move it faster, then you get a smoother movement. And the other thing that you can do to make sure that your side movements are a bit smoother is that instead of moving your arms so long, you create more movement using your body. So you hold your complete upper body stiff, and you create the movement from your legs and your hips. So instead of moving my arms like that, I will just hold the gimbal like that, and then I move my body, because that's also an easy way to get very smooth, stable footage. But of course, sometimes you have to make some longer movement, and then you have to use your arms. There is just no other option in that case. And now that you know how to do movements, smooth movements with your DJI OSMO Pocket, then it's also time to tell you how to improve the shots themselves. Because what I always do, or usually do when I get my shots, is that I think in terms of foreground and background objects, and also what's my main subject. Regarding the main subject, I already told you to shoot in clips instead of shooting for a long time. And while having a clip, you always should think about what the main subject of your shot is. So for example, in the shot that I blend in right now, the main subject is clearly the motorbike, but to make the movement of the gimbal more obvious, I put in the rice field in the front, and that looks very nice, especially because it's in the morning and there is some it was sunset, and there is some water drops in the rice fields. That looks quite nice, of course, but the main subject there is the motorbike, and the rest is just to make it more beautiful and the movement. So what you can learn from that is, at first, think always about your main subject that you want to shoot, and second, think about foreground and background objects, because when you play around with foreground and background objects, you always get much nicer shots. In the other shot that I show you here right now, I have the controller of my Mavic 2 Pro lying there and the nice Montague volcano in the background, and I simply do a forward movement, and this forward movement would not be visible at all if I wouldn't have this controller lying there with the two antennas, right? So always think about foreground objects and background objects and how you can use them to make a shot a bit more dynamic and to make the movement more visible. And the last point here, and that's really something that I wanted to keep for the end, because, well, the best things are always coming at the end. That is the hyperlapse from the DJI OSMO Pocket, and that's actually one of the reasons why I got it, because I'm not talking about the usual hyperlapse or time-lapse mode here that's included there. I'm actually talking about the general video mode combined with the object tracking, because what you can do is, for example, you can simply mark an object like a building, for example, on the DJI OSMO Pocket, and then you just walk very slowly towards this building or another object, whatever you want to use, and then later in post you speed this video up so that it becomes a hyperlapse, and that always looks nice because you always have this one object in the center, you have the focus object in the hyperlapse while everything else around is moving, and that looks great. And I mean, I have the Hyperlapse gimbal there for my GH5, but it's not that easy to do it with that, simply because the object tracking of the Hyperlapse, it sucks. Like it only tracks or starts moving the gimbal when the object hits the corners of the frame, and that's clearly not what I want. I want the object to stay around in the same place in the picture all the time, and that is what the DJI OSMO Pocket does actually a lot better than the Hyperlapse. So that's really already a reason to get it, because the hyperlapses are really great, and hyperlapses are always cinematic. They look smooth. Sometimes you have to stabilize it a bit in post. If it doesn't work good in Final Cut, you can use DaVinci Resolve. That's actually for free to stabilize it. And yeah, when you shoot that, it always enhances your videos. So really use it for hyperlapses. So I would say that's already enough for today, enough to implement, and I'm 100% sure when you implement only those few tips, then in your next DJI OSMO Pocket video you will definitely wow your friends and family. So go out as soon as possible and get some shots and try it out. But apart from that, of course, you can do a lot more to get more cinematic footage, and this is more general stuff like mentioned in the beginning of the video, using ND filters and so on. And I did another video about that, so also check it out. I will link it here. It's more general stuff, like not specific to the DJI OSMO Pocket, but you can apply it to that too. So yeah, check it out. And apart from that, my channel is not just about the Osmo Pocket or the GoPro or whatever. My channel is about general travel filmmaking. So what are your sticking points right now in filmmaking? What are your problems? Just also leave it in the comments below, please, so that I can adjust my content more and at the end help you to become a better filmmaker. I hope you liked that video. If yes, then please hit the thumbs up now, and also don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification button for more videos in the future, because I publish one video every Sunday. So see you in the next one.